On behalf of your host, Steve D, this is Bruce Buffer saying thank you for tuning in to Xtreme Lyfe. And now, this is the moment Xtreme Lyfe fans around the world have been waiting for. It's time!
Hey everybody, this is Steve D. I am here with my friend Rachel Lippert, MMA fighter. She's been on before a few times. She's been on with me and Ray Flores on this show on the weigh-in, talking about UFC fights. Just a really cool person. Glad to have you. Glad to have her back on. Rachel, thank you for coming back on. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. I love being a guest here.
I love having you. I love having you on. And we talked at one point about you doing your own show, and you should.
And I should. Listen, I think I'm pretty fucking entertaining.
You've been on here three or four times already, so I think you're pretty entertaining too. So
I have a big personality, so it's like I feel like I really could do it. It's just my problem. My main concern is that I tend to repeat myself a lot and that kind of stuff, and I just feel like I'd have to get some sort of structure laid out to it so that I didn't just talk in circles the whole time.
Okay,
But other than that, that is honestly my main concern about doing that is I just don't want to say the same shit for the whole time because that tends to be my problem.
Well, you know what I do to get away from that? I'll tell you what, because I do the same thing. And I'll tell you what, who cares? Just say the same shit over and over again. A lot of people do that. A lot of people, like I said, I find myself repeating stuff. But a good way around that is just have different people on with you all the time. Because then, when you do that, you add a different flavor to it. So maybe you repeat yourself, but someone else says something different and it goes in a whole different direction, So that's usually what I do to get around that. Cause I do the same thing. I'm repetitive.
That's a good idea. Yeah, actually.
But I think you'd have a great show. I encourage people to put, hey, if you want to do it, go for it. Go out and do it. Have some fun with it. I mean, this is actually episode 71. I can't even believe it that I'm that far. Yeah. It's been a couple of years now of doing it. I'd started this before the pandemic, before everybody started doing podcasts. It's like
everyone else just got bored and they needed something to do.
Everyone was stuck at home, so they're like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a podcast. So, and it became easier and easier to do, over time, with different applications and Zoom and you don't really need half the crap that I have. When I started doing it, so all you really need is a damn phone and and an idea, phone and an idea and a platform. That's it. So not that hard. But what I really want to talk to you about is, last time we talked, you had just come off a fight, a win, which I can't remember who it was. I think it was Claire. I can't pronounce her last name.
Schlenclaw.
Something like that.
I never asked, so I'm just guessing.
It is something like, I'm looking at it right now and I'm still trying to figure out how to pronounce it. I think I screwed it up last time we talked about it too. But you did some serious damage to her leg. I still, every once in a while, that picture kind of pops up. I'm like, oh, that's a bad one. But that was a great victory for you. It was just about, you were just ready to turn pro, right? I think maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Was that the plan?
A lot of people feel that I should, or that I should have already. I think I got a lot of room for improvement, but it's not like, obviously as a pro, you can still improve. We see it all the time where pros, every single fight, they look different. It's not like when you go pro, you should be as good as you're going to get. Mm-hmm. But it just seems that these fucking surgeries, just because I don't want to go pro off of surgery. That's my big issue, right? Because I don't want to find out this isn't solid, in a pro fight. Yeah. So my shoulder, we had 2 fights. And then after this fight, we were like, we were going to do it, right? We were going to go pro. This was the second. So I had 1 fight and then we took this one. And then we're like, after this one, what happens. We're going to go pro. Well, then during the camp, I started having these issues with this, with my neck.
Yeah.
And so then we had to have another surgery, and that now I have to have another fight just to make sure everything holds up solid. I can get through a camp. Okay. that's all it is really at this point, is I just don't want to go pro office surgery.
No, I don't blame you. And I'd probably be to say it's better to be cautious than to jump in and then realize, oh, I went in way too early. Yeah, especially, you know, I mean, and I think timing is everything too. I mean, in your amateur career, you know, it's okay. You know, here's the thing, my opinion, and you know, it's just my stupid opinion. I think, you know, all the screwing up you do it in your amateur career, right? Get all the bugs out.
Oh,
get
I've
all
done so much.
Well, I think everybody does, right? Amateur careers are interesting. I look at some of the top fighters now, and I look at their amateur careers, and I'm like, whoa, that was pretty. You know, some of them are pretty you know, they've like one loss in like 30 fights, right? But their amateur careers all over the place. You know, and it's like, it's because, you know, that's where you do all your testing, right? That's where you test yourself. That's where you really kind of hone your skills. You're coming up in the fight game. Your nerves are going crazy. You know, there's all kinds of shit that's going on. And then, you know, I think you learn how to be a pro in your amateur career. And then, you know, you turn pro, and then it's, you know, I mean, not that you can't come. I've seen people come in and lose 3 times in their first 3 pro fights and then turn out and really kick ass, you know? So, I mean, you can turn it around. It's just, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to, you know, come in and
have a rough start,
have a really rough, because it's harder to, I mean, that does a lot of shit to your mind. It does a lot of things to you physically. You know, it's kind of like, you know, it's really, now you got to get through the mental block of, oh shit, I just lost 3 times. If I lose again, what the hell, you know? And I think that's a lot of pressure that UFC fighters face too. When they get like 2 or 3 losses in a row, they're like, all right, my contract is in jeopardy now. And how do you get through that? And then it's like quicksand, right? The more you struggle to get out, the harder it is to get out, the more you sink, you know? So, and nobody wants to do that.
I'm just, so, I mean, I'm just waiting to make sure everything is okay. And then I do intend to go pro really soon. Like really soon. I already intended we were supposed to go at the end of last year, and then my shoulder happened, and now it's supposed to be at the beginning of this year, and then my neck happened. And so now it's by the end of this year. I hope to be pro.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, injuries suck, right? I mean, and that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about is what does it look like coming back from, you know, having these injuries? And, you know, I mean, I know it's frustrating. I mean, we've talked about the frustration that goes along with that, but what, you know, what does the training look like? I mean, how do you test this? I mean, I saw you coming out of surgery, right? You're already like, you were like, I think you were still in the hospital or something doing like shadow boxing or something. I don't know. I'm watching this going, what the fuck, is she out of her mind?
In all honesty, I was so very high when I did that. Like, they had me pumped through all the drugs. I didn't feel a fucking thing. But no, I did feel really good coming out of surgery. I'm not really sure what's up at the moment. My hand numbness got worse, but I don't have the same shocking feel like that, because it used to feel like I had a dog collar on and it would shock me and I would just collapse to the ground, right? And so that's not happening so far anymore, but my hand numbness is still like, it's getting worse, and we just don't understand why yet. So that's just kind of slowing me up a little bit. I mean, I can still train, and I am still training, but as far as taking a fight, I want to understand why that is first. You know, in case something should happen during a fight. You know, I already took that Claire fight knowing that I was injured. And I just don't think I'll get that lucky twice, you know, so I'm waiting to kind of figure out some more news on that. But as far as training and how do I test this? I mean, I've actually been surprisingly, in my opinion, well behaved throughout this.
You say that like you're surprised at yourself.
Well, here's the thing. With my shoulder, I was a complete dick. Everyone's like, take it easy. And I'm like, no. Like, let's just get the shit going. We took enough time off, right? And so with my neck, I was like, I'm doing a lot of shit that I shouldn't be, but I am not allowing people to really hit me in the head. Yeah. Right. You know, I will go with certain people that I trust to control themselves. Yeah. And same with grappling. Grappling, I'm not going with anybody who's like spazzing out, right? Or somebody who's going to stack me or slam me, you know. But for the most part,
stay away from them low belts. Stay away
right?
from the
No,
low
and it is. It's low
They'll hurt
belts
you.
and big guys with egos, right?
Yeah.
It's because
Yep.
big guys will do that shit too.
Yep.
And so I just don't allow myself to get stacked. And I'm a good enough grappler that if I feel myself getting stacked, I can move myself out of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the world, but yeah, that's pretty much the only things I'm trying to avoid right now is just getting too much head contact and getting stacked on my neck. And other than that, I'm doing all my regular training. So
well, that's, I mean, I always said, if you want to get hurt, spar, because sparring, that's where most people get, like, in training is generally where a lot of people get injured, and you just got to know who you're rolling with, who you're sparring with is important. And they know.
I've gotten pickier throughout the years, right? I used to be like, oh, fuck it, I'll train with whoever, right? But I visited a couple gyms where people who are bigger than me and, in some cases better than me, have tried to knock me out for no reason. I don't know these people, and even at our own gym, like sometimes the guys get a little bit of an ego. So the newer ones that don't, haven't worked with me for a long time, they get a little bit of an ego and then they try to like lay me out. And everyone at my gym is like 190, 200 pounds. There's no reason for me to really be training with them. But since I don't have a choice really in the matter, I do. So therefore I have to pick the ones that I know aren't going to get an ego if I land a good shot or something, and just try to lay me out. I've told a couple people, it's like not every gym is friendly,
Oh yeah, no, I know that. You can walk into some and it's like all of a sudden it's like you get this really bad vibe. All of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but
yeah, it's like you walk in and they already hate you and you're like, you don't even know me.
Yeah. No,
so
and it's a shame too, because I mean, granted, everybody in the game is trying to fight, it's a competition, it's a sport, right? You shouldn't have that whole this person just came into the gym, I'm gonna show them what I'm all about. That's a bunch of that's some alpha male bullshit that needs to go away. It doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's a matter, look at your stats, look at your career. That's the stuff that matters. In the gym, that stuff is just, you shouldn't try to lay first of all, in sparring, if you're training with somebody, especially if you're training them for a fight, you shouldn't be trying to lay them out.
No, you fucking shouldn't. And when this happened, the most recent one, it was right after that Claire fight. So I was still injured. This was before surgery, but after that fight, and I went to a gym that I've been to a million times with people that I thought, I can trust. And this person that I've never really trained with before, but they're there and they know of me, right? Yeah. And I'm friendly with everybody at that gym. They kept asking me to spar. And then I was like, yeah, sure, And then as soon as the bell rang, like, we were fighting.
Yeah.
And I had to just basically be on defense the whole time because I couldn't get hit, because if I did, I would drop.
Yeah.
And it just, I was like, what the fuck? So even in this gym where I have a good relationship with them and I go and train all the time, there's just this one person who decided to have an ego and take an issue with me.
Well, I don't know
why.
It's a dick move. It's a dick move is what that is. And especially, if you're, and I'm not going to say, I mean, I know a ton of girls that could probably knock me out. Right. But, if you're a 200-pound guy and you're fighting a 130, 140-pound girl, and you're sparring with that person, I mean, why? Why are you going to try to knock this person out? It's not going to give you any points. It's certainly not going to make anybody go, wow. As a matter of fact, everybody in that gym is probably going to be like, what a dick. So
yeah, and it was I mean, this guy wasn't a big guy. This guy wasn't a whole lot larger than me. It's just I was coming off of a fight. I'm injured.
Yeah.
He was getting ready for a fight, and it's like, I get that you got to go hard, but you asked me to spar. I didn't come up and ask you.
Yeah.
So like, if you're gonna ask me to spar, like, don't do that shit. Like, if I came up to you and I was like, hey, you want to go? And then sure, fucking like lay me out, because I have a bad attitude. I clearly like have an issue with you. But like, if you come up to me and you're like, hey, do you want to spar? I'm like, yeah, and this is actually the way it happened the first time too. I went up to some gym up north and there's a girl there and she just watched me spar a couple rounds with like the guys and whatever. And then she came up and she was like, hey, do you want to do the next round? I was like, yeah, I don't have any girls at my gym. So I was like, I was literally putting on my gloves and I was like, oh, it's gonna be really kind of cool to spar with a girl. You know, I don't have any of those at my gym. You know, I was talking to her. And then as soon as that fucking round started, she tried to lay me out. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was exceptionally better than her. So it didn't work out in her favor. But like, it's just, why? I was clearly had no ill intent. I don't understand that. I don't understand that mentality.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just people that sometimes people have that chip on their shoulder. They have that need to prove, you know, it's they got to prove something to themselves. It's not anything else. It's just they have
gym stars.
It's an ego thing. Yeah, I mean, you know, and it's like any training, right? You should never go. I always tell people, because of the Olympic lifting background, I always tell people you should never fail a lift in training ever. You know how you don't fail a lift in training? You don't lift your max. You don't hit your max ever. You hit your max in competition. You don't hit your max in training. You don't even come close. You go 80, 90% tops and you never miss a lift. Now it's the same thing, right? It's like you dial things back because you're in training. It's not like you're, you know, and if someone says, hey, you want to, I mean, you got your fight coming up in a couple weeks. You want to really test yourself. All right, let's do it. Right. Let's go out. Let's go all in. But both people understand that coming in. It's not like, hey, let's go play and spar around a little bit, see how let's feel each other out. Right. That's one thing. Yeah. And let's go hard is a whole other thing. And that's understood and that's okay. You know?
And I've had rounds like Helen. Sorry.
That's all right.
Helen has, you know, sometimes when she's got a fight come up, she'll go, hey, do you want to do some like hard MMA sparring rounds? And I'm like, sure. Right. And we're both under the understanding about how this is about to go, but we're also very similar in size. I mean, she's a lot. That chick is strong as shit, right? But like, but we're very similar in size, and we're under the understanding that we're gonna hit each other a little harder than we typically would, so that we don't take it. You know, if we were just in light sparring, we're like, hey, you want to spar light, and then she hauls up and cracks me, I'm gonna have a problem with that, right?
Yeah.
But if right out the gate, you're like, hey, we're gonna do some hard sparring rounds, I know, and if I wasn't comfortable with it, I wouldn't agree to it. But yeah, it was just, you know, you're right. If you're going to do hard sparring rounds, that's cool, but everyone should be on that page. Yep. And you can't do that every day, because if you do hard sparring every time you spar, you're not going to be able to train as much as you do, because you're going to be injured.
Yeah.
Things are going to happen. It's not worth it. Every day you should train today in order to train tomorrow. Right. So
yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself.
Yeah, knocking people out doesn't do anyone any favors. Now you have one less partner for tomorrow, or if you get knocked out, now you can't train tomorrow. What is that? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you don't want to blow yourself up. And that's been an argument I've had for years with people, because I know people that train to their max every single day, and they go in and do that. And it's not just in MMA, it's in CrossFit. It's in all kinds. CrossFit's famous for doing that. Like every day you go hard and end up on the floor. And I'm like, that's not even how the CrossFit Games elite athletes are training. They're not doing that, right? You don't train to your max every day. You have 1 or 2 days a week where you push your limit. And then the rest of it is all kind of, you know, keeping a pace and learning how to get your heart rate to a certain spot and working with that, learning how to lift heavy under high heart rate, but not blowing yourself up, right? You do that every day. You only have a limited lifespan on that. You can only do that for so long. Like you said, in MMA, if you're going to go hard every day, you're going to get hurt and you're going to screw up a fight that you're going to have. Like you're going to end up in a position where you're going to have a fight coming, but you're going hard all the time and you're going to get injured, and you're not going to end up being able to take that fight. And that could be the fight that does something for you. You know, you never know. But, you know, that's it's a common mistake people make, unfortunately. And it's an argument I always put out there. You should not be you should not be, completely destroyed at the end of every workout. It just shouldn't happen. You know,
no, it shouldn't. And that's also, it's something I struggle with, because not as far as like sparring goes, but just training, like, you know, running, bag work, all that kind of stuff. I typically have, and I'm even struggling now because right now I'm still technically healing. So I'm trying not to do too much. But it's hard because my instinct is to train until I'm tired, right? Because it's typically what you do when you're in camp. And it's hard. And I'm in this group. I have one of those Whoop band things.
Okay.
And I'm in this group with other fighters, and I see all these fighters, and their like score for their strain score for the day is so high, and it makes me, I want to, like, I'm very competitive, so I'm like, well, I gotta get moving.
Yeah.
And then part of me has to go, no, because if you reach the max like they are reaching, you're gonna get hurt. You know, like I have to know my limits right now, and so I try to push it, but when I feel like my body's telling me I've had enough, I chill. So,
yeah. And if they're hitting that every day, I could guarantee you, because I know the Whoop program pretty well. I don't use it. I had it for a while. They had sent me one at one point to play with. But, you know, it will tell you, don't train today because you just blew yourself up yesterday. Yeah. And it will tell you. So they're obviously not listening to that. So they're not using it correctly anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, I pushed mine, like even today. I pushed mine. It was like, you know, the scoring system. So it was like 2 over what it considered my max strain to be. So like, instead of doing like 14 point something, I went 16.8 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was planning on doing more, but I was like, no, like, stop. I had to tell myself, because I looked in that group and I saw these people with like 20, and I'm like, we got to do more. And then I was like, no, you fucking don't. You need to go sit the fuck down. It's hard. Yeah. I'm competitive like that.
Well, I think you're similar to me, where you don't sit well, you don't rest well. And I just don't. I used to overtrain, you know, when I was more competitive. I'm not that competitive these days, but when I was pretty competitive in different, you know, CrossFit type events, lifting and that kind of stuff, I was notorious for overtraining. My coaches would drive my coaches crazy. Because they would be like, you need to rest. And I'd be like, yeah, but I feel like I'm going to lose. Like, I would always feel like I'm going to miss something if I rest. Like I'm going to lose something, or I'm not going to be as good if I take that day off. And that's something I struggled with for a long time, until I finally got to I think I just got old and said, you know what?
Like, oh, fuck it.
This shit hurts too much to keep doing it like 7 days a week, you know, 3 hours a day. It's just too much. But, you know, I mean, I still train 5 days a week. I mean, still my schedule is still my schedule, and I usually do 2 a days as well. But, you know, it's not like at my max all the time, right? That's what I'm saying. I mean, you could train every day as long as you're not training and pushing your limit all the time. Because
I've had people tell me that, like my weight cut coach and my lifting coach and all that stuff. They're like, not every workout is meant to be a burnout.
Nope.
And I was like, I think you're wrong, but
there's some days,
you know,
there's some days I will do a work. I mean, there's a lot of days where I'm like laying on the floor going, what the fuck just happened to me? But then there's other days that I'm kind of like, I almost feel like I didn't do enough, but it's actually just the right thing.
Anytime I lift, that's how I feel. Right. Because you don't get your heart, you know, lifting is different than going and hitting a bag for a bunch of rounds, right? Your heart rate isn't beating out of your chest, and you're not covered in sweat. Right. So for me, every time I go and do like a
that
weight
depends how you
session,
lift.
No, it does.
Yeah,
it does. But, you know, most of the way that we do it is more to fix things, right? Because everything in me is broken right now. So it's like we focus on trying to fix things. Like my shoulder doesn't stay back. Right. Yeah. It falls forward. Yeah. And so we're trying to work on like certain back muscles, strengthening them up and stuff. And it's like, I don't ever feel burnt out or tired or sweaty at the end of it. But like, I'll wake up the next day sore. So I know I did something. But in the moment, I'm like, I can do more, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's and I could send you some stuff for that if you want to learn how to open up that upper back, and I'm sure you're working with great people that are helping you do that too. But I got a ton of stuff on opening up that thoracic spine, because that's what that is. That's your thoracic, pushing your shoulders forward.
It's just the one,
just
the surgery one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have pretty broad shoulders. Right. And I love my shoulders, but this one, like, even if I just like look in the mirror, this one is like pulled forward, and there's back muscles that, that hold your shoulders back. And so they must have gotten weak on this side because I wasn't allowed to use it for so long. And I tell you, man,
it's a hard road when you have like injuries like that. It's a hard road back. It's frustrating. I mean, I know you're training, you're trying to get yourself back into that peak fighting conditioning, right? And that's, it's going to happen, it's just, you gotta, I think, like I said, you don't rest well. So, it's that patience. That's not the easy thing to deal with, I think.
I know. And I've been like, this neck thing has really made me more self-aware, I guess, of like how my body's feeling and what it's telling me,
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it'll be a good thing, right? Look at like, if I'm going glass half full about having to have neck surgery, it's that it made me more in tune with my body and like what it's saying. Because there have been days where I want to go hard that day, but I wake up and I'm like, I just feel like shit. My shoulders are tight, like all the shit. So then I just go do something to get moving and then I rest, right? I'm trying to do better with that because I get hurt too fucking much.
Yeah.
So.
And you've had some pretty decent, I'll say you had some pretty good injuries. So, I mean, you had injuries that require surgery, right? Anything like
go
that.
Go big or go home.
Yeah. You don't do things a little bit, right? You do.
Yeah. I don't do anything half-assed.
There's no little bit there. You're all in or all out, right? That's pretty much it. And I get that. I understand. Believe me, I understand that 100%. But like I said, I got better at it too. They used to say, listen to your body, right? And I've gotten good. I've gotten good at doing that. Because some days I have these crazy workouts written for like the next day. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to do that. And then I wake up the next day. And I'm like, oh man, I'm fucked up. I don't feel good. I just don't feel right. My body don't feel right. I don't feel like I can do it. So I have to, whereas years ago, I might have just taken that workout and said, I'm going to push through it. Screw it. I'm going to do it anyway. And then I'd have felt even worse. Now I'm able to kind of look at it and go, okay, I'm just going to do like an active recovery day. I'm going to get on the bike. I'm going to ride for like an hour and that's it. I'm just going to ride at a zone 1 pace for an hour and just get some movement in and not kill myself today. And tomorrow I'm going to move that workout there, and just doing that. It's working smart, right? I think you get smarter as you listen to your body a little bit.
Well, and to be honest, like you said, the elite athletes that look like tanks, right? Mm-hmm. They're not doing this shit, right? They're working the correct things at the correct time. They're not doing more than everybody else. They're doing the right things at the right time. That's what it's about. I don't have the knowledge base enough to know, but that's what they do. They know what they're supposed to work. They know if they should be doing more cardio, more heavy lifting, more reps. Like they know what muscle fucking group. There's so many different types of muscles. It's stabilizing muscles. I didn't learn any of this shit until like getting hurt, but they know all that stuff. They have this enormous amount of knowledge they can just work smarter, not harder, right? And it's not that they don't work hard, but everything that they do matters. They're not just working out for the sake of fucking working out.
Well, that's it. They're not sitting there going, okay, what am I going to do today? Everything's planned. Everything is so planned and intricate and done by people that know physiology so well. And muscle skeletal movements and body mechanics. And they know all that stuff really well. I mean, you should watch, I have a couple episodes with a guy named Tony Ricci on there. He's like the guru of, sports physiology. And I mean, he's got like a couple of PhDs and all kinds of stuff. He works at a Law MMA, Ray Longo's place, and works with a lot of friends and fighters that I know. And, the guy's they call him the Scarecrow. Stitch Duran gave him that nickname, the Scarecrow. And you know who Stitch is, right? Stitch is a famous guy. He's been around forever. But Stitch called him the Scarecrow because he's like, you're just a big brain, because remember the Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz was looking for a brain. He's like, you're the Scarecrow. You got the big brain, right? So he's got that nickname, and it's stuck with him for a long time. But check out those episodes if you get a chance. And I'm going to actually have Tony on again soon. Because the guy's just like, he's the smartest person I know when it comes to that stuff. I mean, it's just like he could sit there and like, I mean, I know a lot of stuff, but nothing. I'm like an idiot compared to him when it comes to this stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's how I feel about like my weight cut coach. She was like, no, you have to, like when I first started with her, she was like, I don't know if I want to work with you because you don't sound like you're going to listen to me. And I was like, all right. So she definitely fucking nailed it. And I was like, I can trust her, right?
Figured out you're a pain in the ass right from the get-go.
Oh yeah, she called it like immediately. And so when we started working together, I was like, no, I'm gonna listen to her, right? Because she totally called me on my shit. So I'm gonna listen. And she was like having me eat so much. And I was like, this can't be right. Like, why am I eating so much food in camp to lose weight? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden my weight just started falling off day after day after day after day, getting on the scale. And I felt so good. I felt like I could do anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this? And she explained like this whole entire scientific shit. And then even for my cut week, she'll have it planned out and she'll be like, okay, you're going to eat like an orange this day. And then on this day, your carb is going to be a sweet potato. And she's got it like so lined up. And I'm like, why this? Why that? Why this? And she's got an answer for everything. Mm-hmm. And it's insane.
Oh yeah.
Like what I wouldn't do for that knowledge.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, these gurus, right? That know their shit so well. I mean, they've spent their life learning this, right? So it's like anything you see, like you as a fighter, you're as good as you are because you spent a lot of time and all your time doing it. Well, they're as good as they are because, well, they're not fighters and they probably wouldn't be a good fighter, or maybe they would, I don't know, but they have the knowledge that, they've worked at for years, decades, I mean, Tony's worked on this. I mean, he's been doing this for years, and it's just you got to go through all that to get that knowledge. I'm not willing to do all that to get all that knowledge, but it's just amazing. I'd rather know people that have it and they could just tell me.
Yeah. And I don't like my weight cut coach is super dependable, right? So I don't mind not having that knowledge and just depending on her for that. But like things like lifting and stuff, like I am constantly having to I call it babysit my coaches. Mm-hmm. And I don't do that anymore. So like if my coach has canceled too many sessions on me and stuff, I just move on. I go find a new coach. Like I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah.
And so I've been considering doing like one of those personal trainer programs, not so I could be a personal trainer, but just so I can start understanding more about like lifting and how it affects me and how my body works, because that way I don't need a coach for that. I can understand and put together my own stuff. Because like I said, that knowledge is priceless. And
it is. It's priceless. And it, and when it comes to that stuff, I mean, I have a decent amount of knowledge on that because I've put together programs for years. But I will caution you here. I usually don't develop my own programs just because what happens is you have this, everybody has this tendency to gravitate towards what they're comfortable with and what they like.
Oh yeah.
They all
sure do that.
I do it all the time. I'll tell you what, I will not program thrusters into my workouts because I hate them. I will not program certain things in that I just don't like doing, like overhead squats. I hate overhead squats, but I will put them in. If somebody else puts them in, I'll just go do it because somebody else programmed it for me. So, I find myself doing a lot of the gymnastic stuff and some of the heavy clean lifts and things like that. I'll put all that stuff in all the time. And it really doesn't help me because you want to train your weaknesses, right? You want to train the things you hate the most are the things you need to do the most. And that's the stuff you tend to leave out when you're programming for yourself. So I would always caution people when they say, hey, I'm going to program my own stuff, because I've done that and I've made a lot of mistakes with that. And I'll tell you, I always don't put things in that I would, and I'm like, I should have put that in because it would have saved me in this competition where I totally screwed myself up.
Yeah, that sucks because you're actually 100% right. Because like when I'll go in to lift and they're like, okay, so we're going to do like a lot of squats today. And I'm like, shit, you are, and so I don't feel like, I would, you're right. I would totally like avoid shit like that. I would avoid.
Yeah. And I love
my quads.
I love squats. I'll do squats all day. Right now my program has squats 3 days a week. So I'm squatting 3 days a week. Right. Oh, let me tell you something about squats. Squats make your whole body stronger. If your legs get stronger, everything else gets stronger.
But my quads burn out like immediately.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, immediately. So during camp, my quads will burn out so fast that even just footwork during sparring makes my legs tired. Okay. And it's like, so doing that kind of stuff fucking hurts.
You know what that tells me? Know what that tells me? You got to do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I was like, I don't know the difference between whether or not that pain means you have to do it to get through it, to get it better, or that pain means like, hey, you overworked it, chill the fuck out. I don't know the difference.
Yeah.
So
I get it. I get it. Well, that's why it's important to have. That goes back to that. It's important to have somebody working with you that knows you and knows that, knows your body and knows how you can, what you can handle, and what you can't.
Yeah, I gotta find one of those.
What kind of volume you can deal with. Well, strength and conditioning. I mean, I'll tell you, that's a big focus right now. It hasn't been for forever. It's one of those things that comes in and out sometimes, but I find a lot of people, even runners right now. I mean, people that historically did not do any kind of strength and conditioning. Runners were always these real skinny people that just run and, they could run forever like a gazelle, but they hit a little twig on the road and they break their ankle, right? Mm-hmm. Because they don't have any kind of strong base stability, right? Well, they're recognizing that now, and they're starting to do some strength and conditioning, doing some squatting and things like that. And even in MMA, you're seeing more and more strength and conditioning happening rather than, just the sparring and the jujitsu and all that, which you need that, but you also need the other piece, because if you get stronger, you're going to be better at all that other stuff too. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing that, you're seeing that a lot more now than you used to. So going back into what it looks like. So what's your plan now? Where are you kind of at? You're kind of, healing up. I know you're doing some training. Any thoughts on a time frame? Are you not putting that pressure on yourself right now, or?
Oh shit. I always put pressure on myself. I'm gunning for October. I would like to take a fight. I don't really have a date or a promotion or an opponent in mind, but I would like to take a fight in October. I would like to feel ready by then. My weight is good. I've been really focusing, since I can't really focus on a whole lot right now. My weight is one thing that I've been focusing on, just keeping in check and trying to get stronger and maintain like a good, healthy cutting weight. Mm-hmm. So that's been pretty much my whole focus at the moment, is just trying to, look as good as I can at this weight, right? Because we moved up in weight and I want to wear 125 well.
Yeah, you moved out of flyweight, right? So
strawweight. I moved out of strawweight. I'm into flyweight.
Oh, now you're in flyweight. All right.
Yeah, because 115 almost hospitalized me last time. So
yeah,
fuck it, and so we moved up, but now I have that room that I can get a little bit more muscular, which I love. So that's been my primary focus, but there's a couple cards in October, and I'm gonna kind of feel it out for pretty much the remainder of August, and then I'll see what, if I feel good, if I can start, because I have to start trying to take impact and see what happens.
Start taking some hits and see what happens. See if your body can.
Because that's the only way to fucking do it. Isn't that crazy? The only way to know that if I can take a hit is to get hit. There's no clinical way to test that before it happens.
Nope. No. The doctors can tell you how well you're healing up and all that stuff, but that, they're, you got to remember, they're coming from a place where, for normal people who are not getting hit in the face, they're like, you're fine, you're good. And a lot of them don't really understand the full impact of getting dropped on your head or any of that other stuff. So yeah. And you're right. The only way to really test that is to get in there and do some really hard sparring sessions with, somebody that you trust, but somebody that's also going to say, okay, we're, make that understanding. We're going to go a little hard today and see what happens.
Yeah. And she told me 3 months post-surgery, which puts me at mid-August is when I should be able to start taking impact, a decent amount of impact, and I should be fine. So, I've been testing it lightly right now with people I trust, but, hopefully by the end of August, I know for sure that I'm good. And then I can take something in October.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I
go pro. Finally.
Fucking go pro, would you?
I know. And that's this other gym I train at. That's what the coach there always says to me all the time. He's just like, what are you fucking waiting on?
Well, you got, let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 fights?
A ton MMA.
Huh? Yeah.
Right?
I think it's 12, right?
No way. I have no idea. I think it's like 10. 10 MMA. I think I did 2 kickboxing fights, but
4, 5, 6, 7. I can't count. 8,
kickboxing
9,
fights don't fucking count.
10. I'm sorry. You're right. 10 fights. 10 fights. I'm wrong. I'm an idiot. I can't count.
Well, I mean, I have kickboxing ones. I just don't know if you're counting those. I just don't, because
they're not. I don't think they're listed here.
No, they're not on the like Tapology or anything. They don't keep track of that stuff. Thank God.
Yeah.
But my kickboxing fights, I've never done a kickboxing fight and done a full kickboxing camp for a kickboxing fight. They were just like people didn't have opponents. And that's actually a lot of my fights. It's just people didn't have opponents.
Yeah.
So they called me. But I don't count those.
I think that's common though, especially with the female divisions, because, there's not as many, right? So it's harder.
Yeah. And I mean,
fights.
Any promoter around here pretty much knows that as long as my coach is going to be cool with it, I'm cool with it, so.
Then you're still.
And my coach lets me.
Go ahead.
He lets me make some pretty dumb decisions, in my amateur career, like as far as weight classes and short notice fights and all this stuff. He's allowed me to kind of make some mistakes and try some things out so I can learn and do the things that I feel as a pro is going to be incredible knowledge to have, so.
Make your mistakes now. I mean, that's it. Make your mistakes in amateur division. And then when you move into pro, you're seasoned and ready to rock and roll. I mean, you're definitely going to have, I've seen people do one fight and then turn pro, and it's been disastrous. I know. It's been disastrous.
There's a chick, I forgot who I looked at, but she was like 1-6 as a pro. And I looked and she didn't have any amateur fights. And I was like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And I don't want to be one of those people, first off. Secondly, it is getting harder though. Like I'm going to be forced out of being an amateur because most girls are doing 4 fights and going pro, and I have 10. And so there's not very many people who have like, not even just like records wise makes sense, but just experience wise. It just looks like I'm just picking on people now. Like, and it's not to say that they wouldn't be
You're a bully now. You're a bully.
But it looks kind of like I'm like sandbagging or something. Like my last girl was like 1-3 or something like that. And it's not that she wasn't good, and it's not that she didn't present a challenge or something like that. It's just like on paper, I look like I'm just picking on people.
Yeah. Well, you'll know when it's time. I mean, I don't think there's any right number or wrong number. I think, you're definitely getting your experience in amateur, and that's okay. If it takes you 20 fights, go there, do what you got to do. Get the bugs out. Right. It's much better to do that and then, come in there and make a impact than it is to, come in with one fight and then get destroyed for the first 6 or 7 fights that you have in a pro division,
Right. Because then you're not getting paid shit, right? Like if you go, for instance, this girl, I don't know her name. I totally spaced how I even found her or looked her up.
It's okay. But we won't mention her just for her own anonymity. Yeah.
I don't want to. I also wouldn't mention names. So I don't want her to be like this bitch. But
she gonna come back and fight you again.
Yeah. She was it? What were we just talking about?
No, I screwed you all up. I'm sorry. No, we were talking about, turning pro and then losing your first 7 fights, 6 fights, and
Yeah. So she, like once you do that, you're not really worth money, money wise. You're not worth a lot. So you kind of you don't do yourself a service, right? Because like first couple of fights, if you get on like this really good win streak, you're going to get paid more and more and more every time. Mm-hmm. But when you're on a losing streak, you'll be lucky to get paid the same as your last fight, because your stock goes down every time as a pro. Yeah. So I don't want to screw, and that's something I don't think I'm ready. I feel ready. And to me, it's just a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. I've already been working as hard as a pro, in my opinion. So
yeah, no doubt.
I just, I'm mostly just worried about my body being ready for it. Not so much me. Like mentally, I'm there. Mentally, I'm good. I want to go. I've been waiting to go. I'm chomping at the bit to start getting paid for what I'm already doing for free,
Yeah. And you should, and when you're ready, you'll be ready. And, just make sure you're healed up and you could take the punishment before you get into that cage again. I think you're being smart, to be honest with you. I think you're being smart about it. And I think that counts for a lot. So just, keep it up. I mean, keep healing up. I know it's frustrating. I know it's not the most ideal situation, but I think at the end of the day, when you come back, if you're all healed up and feeling good, you're going to have a much better time of it than rushing in too early and doing any of that stuff. So, but listen, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Is there anything you want to put out there? Where can people find you? Anything you want to throw out?
So I'm on Instagram at @_Team Lippert. I would really appreciate if people would follow me on Instagram because that's where sponsors always look first. I don't really need any more Facebook friends. You can send me one if you want, but I don't have a fighter page and I should, but I don't. And so I got a bunch of Facebook friends and that's cool and all, but I would really appreciate some support on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yep. And let's see. I want to thank my sponsors. I got Main Event Apparel. They make my fight shirts, which you should definitely buy a fight shirt because it's got my face on it.
All right.
Right. And who doesn't want to wear my face all over?
You got to get those cardboard cutouts of your head that people hold up at the sporting events.
Yeah. My coach was like, you would put your face on your own shirt. And I was like,
that's great.
Thought it would be a good selling point. I don't know.
Is that awkward? Have you ever run into somebody with your face on their shirt?
Oh, yeah. I know for sure.
Is that awkward?
And I love it. I love it. Listen, when people send me these pictures of them wearing my shirt, it makes my whole fucking day. I love it so much. And we're coming out.
I'm gonna get one, and next time you're on the show, I'm gonna be wearing that motherfucker right here.
Good, you should. We're coming out with a version that doesn't have my face on it. So,
No, I want that one because I want to wear it during the podcast.
Oh, it's staying up for sale for sure. We're not taking it down. It's staying up for sale. We're just going to put another one just in case.
Just in case somebody doesn't want the face shot on there, right?
Yeah, just in case somebody's got some issues with my face. Yeah. And then thank you to obviously HK USA. Dude, I just got my new shit. I don't have them in here with me. Otherwise, I'd totally show you my new custom gear from them. Okay. He made me some gloves and some shin guards that say money on them, which is what my coach calls me. Okay. And I got them today and I was not feeling training today. I don't know why, just a little anxious or, I just kind of had the motivation sucked out of me. And then those gloves showed up and I was like, oh, we got to go get it. And
go in and do some work.
I got to use my new gear and I was so excited. So obviously huge thank you to them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on again. I always love having you on. It's always fun. We always have these great conversations. I look forward to seeing you fight again. I look forward to you turning pro and following your career. And when you're a huge star, getting you back on the show again, when you're in the UFC or whatever, Invicta or any of the big promotions when you're pro, I think that'll be awesome. And I definitely think you're heading in that direction. It's just a matter of getting some things tuned up and tweaked out and, you'll be ready to roll. So thanks again. I appreciate it. We'll get you back on again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.